So here I am at 16 years old, just really trying to live and go hard for God. One night I ended up at an abstinence event with my church, and the purpose was promoting purity and choosing to abstain from sex until marriage. And so at the end of that event, we signed these cards that said, I vow, not to have sex until I got married. Well, I signed it, and I really wasn't thinking anything of it until after the event, because truth be told, I had just had sex the night before, literally. No lie. So after I signed the event, I was like, okay, I'm about to go hard. It was like up from there. I started really being vocal about, abstaining from sex, and just really being more vocal about my life for God, and just how I'm just not doing the things that I used to do anymore. And I just remember, telling guys that would try to talk to me that, yeah, I'm not on that anymore. I just remember really just trying to do the right thing and what I felt was the right thing. So by year 3 of my abstinence journey, I founded an event called the I Choose to Pass movement. And so with that, I started having purity celebrations. And if you don't know what the I Choose to Pass movement is, I Choose to Pass simply came from the smash or pass game we used to play on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Message like, you like my picture, like my tweet, whatever, I'm gonna tell you if I want to smash or pass. And so that's how I created the I Choose to Pass movement. And so my purpose was just to promote abstinence. I just really wanted people to be pure. I knew how it made me feel, and I knew, like, coming from the emotions that came with sex and not having it no more, I just knew how it made me feel, and I just wanted other people to feel the same way. And so I started having those events. The problem is, it started coming too much about being abstinence and not enough about God. That should have been the sole purpose, because also at that time of my life, I was following a popular organization that it was a lot about purity and getting a husband and not having sex so you can get a husband. And it was just a lot. So I started thinking more about being pure because I want to get married, not being pure because I need to live a holy life for God. And so with that, on year number 6, I failed. But let me tell you how I failed. So we're going to go backward a little bit, and I'm going to tell you what was kind of going on in between that time. There were several things going on in my life while I was trying to maintain purity, maintain a relationship with the Lord, maintain a social life, grow up, get through college. You get the point. I was 19 years old. I have always been ahead of my time. Since a little girl, I always wanted to hang with the older people. I wanted to hang with high schoolers. When I was in middle school, I wanted to hang with middle schoolers when I was in elementary. You get the point. Ahead of my time. The problem with that is I often felt like I was behind. I always felt like I was not where I should be, that I should be further. And this is when Instagram was really like coming into play. So I'm following people who God told to drop out of college and move to Atlanta. And so what did the Lord tell me? To drop out of college and start a full-time ministry and ultimately live in Atlanta. And so I'm laughing because I really just was tripping. But anyway, I started being affected by what I saw on social media. I started wanting the life of other people. So on the flip side, outside of social media, I got a mentor, and I wanted to just grow in the word. I wanted to not take scripture out of context. I wanted to understand the deep meaning of scripture. And so I pursued mentorship. Well, unfortunately, it did not go the way that I thought it would go. I thought it should go. And ultimately, it just didn't turn out good. It was to the point that sometimes I really felt discouraged. I did not feel like they cared about me and what I wanted to do. For example, I wrote a book. Why not plug it, okay? I wrote a book. And I remember sending my mentor the book, and I remember them not even reading the draft, not even trying to see what it was about, but immediately shutting it down. And they just were like, I don't think you have enough substance, or something like, basically like I need to mature, basically like I'm too young to write a book, in a nutshell. And I felt defeated. I felt discouraged because you didn't even read it. And so the book was about my journey from a little girl to about age 16, because at that time in my life, that was a big story. Like, I mean, you're talking about angry, diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, depressed, and all this, and overcoming, getting out of the juvenile system. I thought that was a story to tell, especially for my peers. And so I just felt really discouraged. And as I continued toward mentorship, it just didn't work out in the way that I desired. And that made me feel defeated. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough. But one thing that it really made me do was fear the Bible. Let me tell you why. I always was made to feel like if you're not studying this way, you're not studying right. If you're not breaking scripture down like this, you are not really getting scripture, and you're not really understanding scripture, and you're taking scripture out of context. If your church doesn't teach like this, it's wrong. And so after mentorship, well, in between and after mentorship, my dad told me we was moving again. So here I am, 20 years old at the time now, and he tells me that we're moving again. Here I am in this place of struggle with God, because now I'm scared of the Bible. Now I feel like the Bible is too much for me. Now I'm overwhelmed. And then another life transition comes. We're moving. Could I have stayed in Goldsboro? Well, yes, because I was 20, but I couldn't go nowhere without my parents at the time. They were the only ones who really had my back, and I just wasn't in a space to leave them behind. So I moved to Mississippi. I started community college there. What I forgot to mention was that I had dropped out this semester that we were in, January, because I felt like I was supposed to do ministry full time. And I felt like God didn't call me to go to school. All the things. And so I didn't want to go to Mississippi doing nothing. And so when I got to Mississippi, fast forward, I became an RA. I'm doing good in school, but I'm just unfulfilled. And the spotlight was gone. Nobody in Mississippi knew me. They didn't know, unless they follow my social media, they didn't know that I was a leader. They didn't know that I had an event. They didn't know I was abstinent. They didn't know none of that. I did not have to hold up that standard anymore. Slowly but surely, I started drifting away from God because I was afraid of the Bible. It was too hard. And all I could think about was my mentor just telling me that I was not studying right, I wasn't comprehending right, and just not being what I needed to be at that time in my life. And so I remember just crying nightly, like, I don't do the greatest with transition. I realize that now, especially now that I live in Dallas by myself and I haven't been doing the greatest with transition. It makes me really emotional, and I'm trying to grow day by day. That's not what this is about. I just started drifting. I would sometimes make videos and sometimes keep my platform going, but I was not required to hold that standard up anymore. Fast forward some more. 2018, I'm just continuing to drift. Now I'm dabbling in pornography. So I'm giving myself pleasure, making myself feel good. Now I'm craving sex. I think I struggled with pornography for about a good 2 years before I slipped up. So here I am in 2018, and I got this homeboy. We real cool, and we kick it. I didn't plan to do anything with him because I didn't look at him like that, and we was just legit cool. And so one thing led to another, start playing with fire, start flickering. And so we didn't do like the sex thing, but we was doing some little foreplay stuff. And then I went back. And finally, I had sex. And I was like, do you consider what we did sex? I think I was in denial, and he was like, yeah. I was like, well, there goes my 6 years. Why I wanted to tell that backstory is because I should have kept God at the sole front, okay? He should have been my source. I should not have depended on my mentor to get me to a place. I should have depended on him. And in my immaturity, I put my faith in a person versus him, and I just let it defeat me. And if I could say anything now in this point, don't allow anybody to throw you off. God is not looking for you to be deep. God is just looking for you to come to him. God is just looking for you to say, God, I'm here. Teach me everything that you want me to know. Teach me the Bible. Yes, it's a lot. Yes, it's confusing at times. And yes, it's all this about who wrote it and all that. I don't care about that. And he don't either. He just wants you to come as you are. And so I wish I would have known that. But what better way but to teach someone else what I learned, okay? That is how I feel. Ultimately, like, that's what was going on in my world. And so, of course, stay tuned for the next part of this story.